Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bold Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. With me, as always, for these Bold Predictions is Steve Marik and Greg Smith. I'm Zack Carpenter. We are previewing another Michigan State Nebraska game where Nebraska's going to travel to East Lansing and expecting some gray clouds and overcast day, which Steve, I know you love. You love this Big Ten weather, and like in the spring game, Matt Rhule talked about being prepared for Michigan State in October, November, going to East Lansing and playing in the elements. But yeah, I know you love the Big Ten weather.
I'm not going to lie. When I was walking to the stadium last weekend when Nebraska was playing Purdue, it was like the coldness was just like hitting my face, and deep down inside, I was like, "Yeah, we have made it, boys. Let's go."
Wait, Greg, is Steve psycho or is he Nebraskan?
Oh, I'm not a psycho.
No, okay. Well, both. Yeah, yes. The answer is yes. Like he is both a psycho and pure Nebraskan. Like, but to me, very psycho. Because no, man, I'm the opposite. Like, give me 75 and sunny, or like 87 in a light breeze. Like I'm ready to roll. So no, I did not have those warm fuzzies that Steve had walking up to that gray stadium last weekend.
Yeah, and it might be a gray stadium at Spartan Stadium as well in East Lansing. I think they got a high. It's going to be a little bit warmer there if the weather reports are accurate. Yeah. A little under 60 degrees at kickoff. Some clouds and stuff hanging around, and it's going to get colder. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. I know Matt Rhule is excited for this one. I know he doesn't want to hear the one more victory and then you qualify for a bowl spiel, but one more victory and they qualify for a bowl. So everybody around here is going to be really happy. And of course, Matt Rhule wants to win all the remaining games. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be watching this one because of the ramifications for what it means in the Big Ten West race that we find ourselves in, the last one of the Big Ten West's entire existence. So yeah,
and it's going out with a bang with
one last ride. Let's have fun. One last ride.
Yeah. Greg, I'm forcing you. Greg, I'm forcing you. Talk about a bowl game. Tee off.
Oh God. Okay. So really, my feelings are still the same on this. I like going to a bowl game at all is the key, right? Like they've got to do that, but for the love of everything, avoid Detroit. Like just to stay away from that one. It will be okay. If we were ranking them, I think that Detroit is last for me easily. The New York one is tough too, because it's just rough. Like New York is great to go to, not necessarily in the dead of winter. Get out west and go to either Vegas or Phoenix. Yeah, it's just tough. Like that would be a lot of fun. And I think Phoenix in particular, with like the strong alumni base that Nebraska has out there, would actually be really fun, because I think you can see it on the insiders board over on our site. Like people are talking about it a little bit about, hey, I haven't been to a bowl game in, what is it, 7 years? Like we've been waiting. Like Nebraska already historically travels well to these things. So I think Nebraska and Phoenix would have a large showing in that game for fans.
Nebraska has to have like a pretty enticing fan base for like bowl executives who come to these games and
for sure
are money, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Looking for teams that are going to bring a solid fan base over. Nebraska is absolutely one of the top programs in the country, I would think, to follow their team wherever and how big or small the bowl is.
Look at this, boys. Who would have thought we'd be here talking about like where we think Nebraska should go or could go for a bowl game? Like we're trying to pick Nebraska's destination spot in a bowl game. And I mean,
it wasn't like this after Michigan, was it?
No, man. Think we've come so far.
Think about after Minnesota or after Colorado. It's like, oh my God,
are they gonna, the sky was falling.
Are they going to finish 2-10? Are they going to be 3-9? Like, and those are realistic conversations I think to have at that point when we're looking back at it. But fast forward now, all those bad times are in the past. We're talking about the here and now. And I mean, could save this conversation for the end, but I mean, we're preparing. We have to prepare realistically. If Nebraska wins this game, we have to prepare realistically for a potential Big Ten championship game appearance. Like I'm over here budgeting it out. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, it has to be real. I'm going to wait until after the Michigan State game where I'm like, we might have to prepare for a trip to Indy, which is absolutely bonkers that we can say that out loud with a straight face. That's like, okay, that could happen, which is
9-3 is on
product. Yeah,
it's on the table. It's so wild. Like, because, and part of this, to be fair, part of this is yes, they're playing. Yeah, it's the Big Ten West, but Nebraska is playing better.
Yeah.
But it also seems that as Nebraska kind of has its own issues, both like kind of just the offense overall, but also injuries, these other teams that they still have to go through are also having issues. So it's just like the teams already weren't that great. And now everybody has various issues, and they all are kind of just pick one out of a hat. It's to me, it's really interesting and fascinating to see how this race ends up shaping out. I still think we've got a lot of twists and turns yet to come in this. Like, I honestly don't think anyone is going to run the table the rest of the way. I think that all of them will have a bad loss, and maybe all of them have a surprising win left in them. I think it's going to be a wild month around here.
Yeah, I mean, you look through the gauntlet and just backtracking. I mean, Iowa, it has the Brian Ferentz issue, who just got he's a lame duck offensive coordinator now as of this week. I mean, Wisconsin's starting quarterback is out. Maryland's lost 3 in a row, probably going to be 4 in a row after this weekend against Penn State. Michigan State is in shambles with Mel Tucker being fired. I mean, Purdue has a first-year head coach, so they're not in shambles. They're just in sort of rebuild mode. And Northwestern interim coach and the turmoil they're going through. Illinois, I guess, wasn't
Wisconsin quarterback problems.
Yeah, exactly.
And Braylon Allen is now
going down
up. Like after already having
Ches Malusi broke his ankle.
Like, it's just it is a beyond bizarre season in the Big Ten West in a year that when we normally always say it's a bizarre season in the conference or in the division, this is even worse.
The road is there for Nebraska to do this thing.
Yeah, this is weird. That's crazy. Yeah,
every team that they've faced the Big Ten has gone through issues, and the non-conference Louisiana Tech was without their starting quarterback, and then NIU was facing its own issues because it had Rocky Lombardi as its quarterback. No offense,
running into sacks.
The Eli Manning self-sack. I'm always going to remember that. Like Nash Hutmaker and Blaze Gunderson came down on him, but it was the self-sack. He would have been sacked anyway, but it just added to a little bit of the comedy of errors there against NIU. But Rocky Lombardi, like I said, former Michigan State quarterback, and they're playing Michigan State this weekend. And it's a former team led by, it's a program in Michigan State that used to be led by Nick Saban, and his famous words for the Alabama players is don't drink the rat poison. Don't buy into your own press clippings, your own hype too much, which is sort of what Nebraska's message has been all along throughout this 3-game win streak. It'll be the same this week, going against Michigan State, which is 2-6, lost 6 in a row. Only owns a win over Central Michigan, which has been the talk of the town lately because of Connor Stallions, and FCS program Richmond, led by at one point in time led by Kyle Laletta, who beat my Illinois State Redbirds in the FCS quarterfinals back in 2014. So there you go. Appreciate you, Michigan State, for getting a little bit of revenge for us, Roll Birds. But again, 2 wins, 0-5 in the Big Ten. They're a mess, but I mean, Nebraska, like we've said all along, they haven't earned the right to take any opponent lightly, especially going on the road in a tough place to play in East Lansing on Senior Day. It's not like they're going to just roll over as they're trying to go out on top. And they have a running back in Nate Carter, who EJ Barthel, Nebraska running backs coach, used to mentor and teach up there in Stores in Hartford. And I don't know if I don't think Nebraska really made a true run at him in the transfer portal, but there's some familiarity there at the very least between them. But Nebraska, Michigan State has it's the lowest total going into the game. It's at 34.5. It opened at 32.5, but 34.5 right now, with Nebraska as a 3-point favorite. We'll get to final score predictions in a bit, but Steve, take us through your bold prediction for this week, and we'll bring her around.
Yeah, so my bold prediction this week is Nebraska is going to rush for 75 yards in the fourth quarter alone. So they're going to meet the goal that Matt Rhule always sets out to achieve, is making that 75-yard rushing mark in the final quarter. If they do that, things are going well. You're running the ball. You're not wanting to force things down the field with passes. So it generally means you're going to win the football game. Michigan State's defense has not been the problem this year at East Lansing. It's the offense who has some major problems of its own. It has 3 quarterbacks. We don't really know which one is going to play. So that might be interesting for the Black Shirts, but I think whichever one ends up playing, I think Tony White's unit will be just fine. But let's look at Michigan State's game last week against Minnesota, a loss for the Spartans. It was their 6th straight. The Gophers rushed for 228 yards. If you take out the sack yardage, they rushed for 228 yards. And those runs in the first half that are like 2 and 3 yards, they turned into 5 and 6 yard body blow chunk runs in the second half. And especially the fourth quarter, they rushed for 104 yards in the fourth quarter. The Minnesota did it. So maybe this isn't a very good bold prediction considering what Nebraska is working with on the offensive line with 3 new starters, Teddy Prohaska, Justin Evans-Jenkins, and Henry Lutovsky. But I don't know. I think that Nebraska's going to lean on the run game. And I think they're going to find success in the second half, just like Minnesota did. If Minnesota can do it on the ground, I think the Huskers can too. So little kind of a interesting note, only to me maybe, but Tyler Nubin, Minnesota's all conference Big Ten safety, who I think is going to be a pretty good NFL guy. He has a little brother on the team, Jordan Nubin, and Jordan Nubin took 40 carries for 200 rushing yards against Michigan State. Before that game, Jordan Nubin, the little brother of Tyler Nubin, had 6 total carries on the season. So he had just a wild blowout breakout game for Nebraska. Emmett Johnson is kind of a similar story, not as experienced, but he's starting to get going in his young career. So maybe, if
Emmett Johnson's looking good, isn't he? I mean,
yeah,
he's flashing.
I like what he's doing.
Back-to-back games of over 70 yards rushing. So that's really good for Emmett Johnson, who hand up. I thought he was a guy who was going to hit the transfer portal coming into the season, maybe. So as of right now, it looks like he's kind of finding a groove and getting comfortable with the Big Ten speed and learning how to be a Division I running back for a really young second-year guy. But yeah, bold prediction: Nebraska is rushing for over 75 yards in the fourth quarter.
And Steve, I'm shocked that you did not also mention that Emmett Johnson is kind of a psycho like you, and he likes the cold weather. He actually said that to us yesterday when he was kind of at the
He's
side.
a Minnesota kid.
Yeah, we asked him about it. He was like, "Nah, man, I love this weather." Like he's walking around like I'm used to it.
And Greg, he was at center of your bold prediction last week to score two touchdowns. You said Emmett Johnson will score his first career touchdown and ... and his second one. So you got 50% credit there.
I went a little too bold last week, but I actually think that my bold prediction kind of relates to Steve's in a way. It's on the other side of the ball. But if Matt Rhule, if one of the kind of tent poles that we know that he wants to do every single week is rush the ball for 75 yards in the fourth quarter, that's like beaten to our heads. The other thing that's beaten to our heads, we see it and hear about it every week, is that they want shutout in the fourth quarter. They have come so close to being able to do that a couple of times, and haven't been able to get it done. I think they're going to get it done this week, and it relates to what Steve was saying about the 75 yards rushing, because honestly I might have picked that for my other one if I had not said the shutout, because I do think that this is a game in which we could come away from it feeling really good about Nebraska's ability to put the game away, and kind of stay focused and locked in throughout the game, and those two things to me kind of play hand in hand. I think Nebraska's defense, coming off of a performance that was very good on paper, but Matt Rhule and Tony White were quick to point out that it was not as good as it looked like with the stats when they watched back on the film, and that Purdue had a lot of opportunities that they kind of left out there on the field, and that Nebraska could have gotten beat a couple of times. And there's some guys that I feel like too that the light is really coming on. Like we highlighted that Prince Will Umanyalan play. It's just marvelous the play that he made there, and like to hear Tony White describe that, it was just great. Like that's something that, and I don't think that that's something that a play that he could have made, even though he was playing, in the first games early on in the season, he could have made that play then. So to see him,
that's going to be on his NFL scout tape.
Yeah, like it's an amazing
from this
play.
Year. They're going to definitely
will
there.
Be. Yeah, and so
Mel Kiper will bring it up.
Right, that play will play. There, you got the little background music, and he's out there like kind of making this play. Yes, hopefully, as he's like a day 2 pick, that would be really.
He's
good
shooting for
Nebraska.
day 1.
Oh, hey, I was trying to be conservative, not bold draft predictions. Yeah, this is bold predictions. But I do think Nebraska gets that fourth quarter shutout because things are starting to come together for them. That's my bold prediction. They leave Sparty victorious after Steve hears that this is Sparta Rar thing a million times at the game.
Yeah, I love the movie 300, so maybe I'll dig it.
They play it all the time.
Ice cream sandwiches for everybody if they wind up getting a shutout. That's the deal. That's the Michael Scott office. I swear to God, I reference the office every single bowl predictions. In the middle of saying that, I'm like, oh, Jesus, another one for me.
Drink. It's like the leaf blower in Rapid Recap.
Yeah, a leaf blower and Rapid Recap and a Christian McCaffrey reference for Matt Rhule at press conferences. It's every week we bring it out, or Michael Lombardi or Bill Walsh. But I feel like I would go with a takeaways bold prediction or some sort of defensive touchdown like every week. Guys, switch it up. I'm gonna have to switch it up and go use pretty much the exact same bold prediction I just had like 2-3 weeks ago for the Illinois game. Jaden Doss was back on the field for the Illinois game and traveled with the team, and we all saw it like just in the little snippets. He only got 5 snaps, but you could see the machinations of how they're going to use him, how they're going to use him in the offense, like motion in the backfield, wheel routes, crossing routes, and then on Saturday against Purdue, he got a couple targets. One of them was on one of those. Either it was a wheel route or a go route. Either way, it was down the left sideline.
He should have caught it. Yeah,
he should have caught it. He did come back really soon after and sort of make up for it. He had one catch for 16 yards. And
that was on 3rd down too.
Yeah, it was a big
moment for the freshman.
Was that during the 15-play drive?
It was in the first quarter, and it was a 3rd and 6, I believe, and he caught a 16-yarder. I think it was 16 or 19, something like that.
It probably would have been the first drive then. So Fleeks had the big 23-yarder on 3rd and 3 to sort of get that one going, and then he had a run. Was it? I don't know if it was officially a run or a pass. My mind, it's escaping me now. Either way, they're contributing. The Nebraska receivers and running backs were contributing on that drive, and I think this is shaping up to sort of be maybe not necessarily a breakout game for Jaden Doss, but I mean, we've seen it now in back-to-back weeks against Northwestern. It was Malachi Coleman shaking loose for a 44-yard touchdown for his second career catch, first career touchdown. Then you get Jalen Lloyd, 1 catch in the game, pops it for 73, second career catch, first career touchdown. I think we're getting that out of Jaden Doss this week. That Illinois game, I predicted. And I told you guys privately, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I think I actually even wrote it. Like, I don't think this is going to happen, but it's bold prediction, trying to make a point here, guys. That Jaden Doss would go for 5 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. And I'm doubling down. He has 2 catches for 20 yards so far this season. He's going to triple his catch output. He's going to quadruple his reception yardage output and score his first career touchdown. So I got Jaden Doss 6 catches against Michigan State for 80 yards and his first career touchdown. So we'll make it 3 weeks in a row that a Nebraska freshman receiver sort of breaks out and gets that first career touchdown for the Huskers offense.
If that happens, that would be great, because that would be a tremendous sign for the future and those guys starting to really come into their own. Because what did we say a few weeks ago, right? Like, we were like, hey, if we get to the end of the year and we say, hey, we've seen some flashes from these young wide receivers, that is actually a great sign that will make people feel a lot better about the future and make them, like, I don't know, feel better about Garrett McGuire, but at least start to say, okay, well, maybe he's got something going.
There's some development happening.
Because he did a heck of a job. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the receivers on the true freshmen on the offensive side, and then you think about the defense with those guys who are getting very valuable snaps right now. The Principal Uman-Yellens, the Riley Van Poppels, Cam Lenhart. I think Nebraska has a bright future, honestly. When you're looking at the things, it's going to be an interesting offseason. I know college football is absolutely crazy with players jumping into the portal and moving in its very NFL style with roster building these days and free agency, basically. But I'm not saying any of them are going to be like poached or anything, but it's in the back of my mind with all these freshmen doing well, in big moments. They're probably catching eyes of everybody else in the conference and the country. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out in the offseason.
You're getting burned by Ernest Hausman. memories.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, and I've said this privately. I'll say it here. I felt like the moment that he transferred, if he could transfer, anyone could transfer. When you have a kid that has like big Nebraska ties with his family to the program, and it was adopted into Nebraska, like all of that, like like that's tough. But part of it is, and this is going to be an off-season storyline, not to skip ahead to the off-season, and we're going to end up talking about this, is that the 1890 Collective, shouts to them because they've got their work cut out for them, and it's going to be a huge offseason with a lot of eyeballs on them, because it's not a matter of when other schools come in on some of these guys, it's when, and they're going to have to pony up the money for retention. Like it just is what it is. That's the reality of college football.
Greg, I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to say it, but yeah, Nebraska is going to have to re-recruit the true freshman studs that are on the field right now this offseason. I know Husker fans don't want to hear it, and it might not be fair, but nothing's fair anymore in this world right now. Going to have to. With NIL, you're going to have to learn, adjust, as Brad Pitt, the great Brad Pitt, said in Moneyball. I love it. After die. Adapt or die, and that I think Matt Rhule is learning that right now. And 1890, it's on you guys.
Absolutely.
And not to sound too much like Matt Rhule here, but I was listening to a Michael Lombardi podcast earlier today, and he referenced Bill Parcells, who Matt Rhule's always referencing Mike Lombardi, Bill Parcells, Bill Walsh, but Lombardi was referencing a quote philosophy from Parcells where you got to play guys to develop them. You got to play the young guys to, like, putting them on the field is how they develop the best. And we're seeing that now. And his quote was, we're going to play the guys in September who maybe they're not ready. Maybe we lose in September, but we'll be ready down the road. And that's exactly what has happened at Nebraska. I mean, Tony White on the second day of fall camp on August 1st, talked about how he wanted to have heavy rotations, and that's how you save guys' legs and build depth for the championship months in late October, November, and December. And when you said the phrase championship months at Nebraska, when they hadn't played a game, new staff, new scheme on offense, new scheme on defense, all these new players, and it's like, okay, like maybe it's a stretch, but I know what you're saying. And now we're here. Now Nebraska is playing meaningful games in November in a month that is now considered championship month because, like I said, Big Ten West Division title and a trip to Indy is on the table. But more to the point of the Nebraska freshmen, they played them early in the year. They played the young guys, and now it was to get them ready for games like this late in the year where you're coming down the stretch and you're fighting for something real. So that's also something to keep in mind. I do think that can help maybe with the retention as well. But in addition to the points you guys said, I think all of those, I think NIL, retention, and playing time all matter, all sort of add up into that retention rate as Nebraska goes forward here. But speaking of going forward, we're going to run through final score predictions real quick. Like I said earlier, Nebraska is a 3-point favorite, over under 34.5. Nebraska is with the numbers here, they're 5-3 straight up, obviously 4-4 against the spread under Rhule. They're 3-2 is the underdog, 1-2 is the favorite, which they'll be on Saturday. And the over has only hit in 3 of the 8 Nebraska games. So 3 times the over hit, 5 times the under hit. And I mean, the point total keeps getting lowered, and Nebraska keeps, actually they hit the over last week. So it was 45 points total and closed at 39.5 points with the late Emmett Johnson touchdown and 3 touchdowns total scored in the fourth quarter. Nebraska did hit the over, but those are the numbers for this week. Steve, what you got?
Yeah, so my final score prediction, Nebraska 21, Michigan State 10. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game ruled by the defenses. Again, I'm Michigan State 6-game slide that they are riding. But like I said earlier, the defense, I don't think is at fault there. It's really the offense. Again, I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback for Michigan State. It might be Noah Kim, the original starter, Kattenhauser, former 4-star guy, in a couple recruiting classes ago. Sam Levitt even came in, a true freshman, when they benched Kattenhauser last week against Minnesota. So 3 different dudes, no idea what's going to happen there. But yeah, 21-10 Nebraska. I think the defense gets another really good one.
Yeah, I think I agree about the defense. I think that they'll have another good game. I think that this is going to be, and I feel like I tweet this every week. That no one has really caught on that it's every week. That I say, hey, this game is getting real Big Ten West out there. I feel like this is going to get real Big Ten West in a hurry because these are two of the worst teams in the conference when it comes to turning the football over. We know obviously about Nebraska's struggles with that. I do think that there will be a lot of turnovers in this game. We could probably set an over under at 4, and kind of go from there. But I got Nebraska winning it, similar to Steve, 20-10. I think it's a low scoring, kind of ugly game that Nebraska kind of seals it late by playing good defense and running the ball well.
Would you guys write your final score predictions and stuff like that? Do you guys ever get tempted just to copy paste from your last one like I do? I get tempted to do that, like low scoring, ugly Big Ten West football game. I'm like, all right, I've said that for the Purdue game, the Northwestern game, Purdue game.
That's okay.
Or the Illinois, Northwestern, and Purdue game, all three. And I'm probably going to say it for this one, but the only one that wasn't was the Purdue game, which still Matt Rhule talked about it being an ugly win because that's how people are describing it. It's like, yeah, I mean, they fumbled it 5 times and had lost 4 of them as their fumble luck sort of ran out. But 31-14, they were dominating 24-0 at one point in the game. But Nebraska scored 31 points, so that's a positive at least.
And shout out to Ed Foley with a blocked field goal. Catching the stance on film of the left guard, number 65, and Ty Robinson after the game saying number 65's stance was a little light. So they thought they could take advantage and push that guy back, and they did. And Elijah Judy got his hand on the ball. That was pretty cool.
Real quick, that was really cool. They drop things like that into like those conversations that really show you that they pay very close attention to what's happening, and they're pretty good coaches. Like, there's not some like revolutionary statement, but if you listen to these guys, like you can tell that they know what they're doing. Like stuff like that comes up all the time. You just have to be listening for it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska has to win the margins. And I mean, that's true pretty much every year, but especially this year with the new staff and sort of just setting the foundation moving forward. And if you have to win the margins, you have to have a coaching staff that pays attention to the details and works like grinds the film as much as they do. And little things like that are proving that, yeah, they're grinding through that. Their attention to detail is one of the big reasons why they're right now sitting with a 3-game win streak, looking for 4 in a row and wins in 6 of the last 7 is little things like that. Cause I mean, it was 14-0 looking like potential 14-3 game and everything swung. I mean, everything swung on the momentum of that one play. And now we're sitting here talking about bowl games in Vegas or Phoenix or Detroit or New York and a potential Big Ten West title for Nebraska. And their next stop is up in East Lansing, Michigan State at 11 a.m. on Saturday. FS1 carrying the game, and I think they're going to take. The next step toward that potential Big Ten West title. And I have them coming out 17-13 and an ugly, low-scoring Big Ten. It's Big Ten West and East crossover, but not one of the pretty teams in the East against Michigan State. So I've got them covering that small 3-point spread, and the under's hitting again, boys. I mean, that's a safe bet, I think, overall when we're looking at this. But hey, at least it's not 29.5 for Iowa Northwestern, which I think is like the lowest spread. And then like the last maybe of all time in college football, at least it's one of them. It's up there. It's not like that 78.5 for Washington USC. It's going to be something when they join the conference. But Steve, I think you just one last thought, rapid fire for you guys.
Yeah, 2 thoughts. How many 11 a.m. kicks has Nebraska had this season? I know Colorado was early in the morning.
Colorado, count that one. I think that was the only one.
I'm pretty sure that's the only one.
So they don't have a lot of experience with 11 a.m. kicks to today or this season. So I'm just wondering if that has any sort of effect at all.
Especially on the road, yeah.
Yeah, on the road, 11 a.m. kickoff. Maybe something weird could happen. I don't know. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Jordan Hall, a true freshman for Michigan State. I really like him. He's a 4-star recruit in this year's recruiting class, and he is starting for Michigan State right now. He's top 5 in tackles. He is 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I really like the look of Jordan Hall. So Husker fans, if you want to look at one Spartan on defense, there's plenty to choose from. Because again, I like Michigan State's defense more than the average guy, but Jordan Hall, number 5, true freshman, really good. I like what he's doing.
Is he sort of like a Kydron Jenkins, where he could be their game record? Or like,
so he's smaller than Kydron is.
Yeah, he's smaller than that.
Kydron is much better, but he's older. But Jordan Hall, he's 6'3", 235, inside linebacker. He's an IMG Academy guy. Kydron Jenkins is more of an outside linebacker / DN hybrid. This Jordan Hall is kind of an inside linebacker type, but boy, I had fun watching him during research of this game. So number 5, look for him.
Him and Cam Linhart will dap up after the game.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on that.
Yes.
2 IMG guys.
Teammates, yeah.
No.
Any last thoughts, Greg, before we get out of here?
No, that was my last thought. They'll dap up after the game.
That's a good walk off. That's a good walk off as we're taping here Wednesday and preparing for Game 5 of the World Series tonight.
I have another one.
Yeah, you know what, Steve? Forget the MLB
Steve, take a bonus.
No, this is going to be so much more important. Cal Holiday, the starting inside linebacker for Michigan State. The other one, he's been there forever. He just like racks up tackles. That's what he does. It's like he's Luke Reimer out there. He doesn't wear gloves, and it bothers me so much. Every single time I watch him play football, he doesn't wear gloves. And I understand you're like from Virginia, you're a tough dude, you're probably from the country, you love the cold weather, but like put some gloves on.
Doesn't Nick Henrich or John Bullock not wear gloves? They're old school. They do the Moises Alou approach.
I just don't love. I don't love it, guys. I don't love it. I'm a looks guy. You look good, you play good, and he plays good, but I don't think he looks
take that
good.
back to
take
come
that
on,
bull
Cal
jump
Holiday.
back to
Boulder.
Oh wow.
No, I'm a proponent of look good, feel good, play good. And
yes.
I felt that today. I felt like we were all on our game. Rate the podcast 10 out of 10. There we go.
That's
so
right.
once again, Nebraska, Michigan State, Saturday, 11 a.m. on FS1. I think their second 11 a.m. Central kick of the season, and we'll see what shakes out as they're going forward here. But we encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel so you can get those videos dropped directly into your feed. We're also available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for you guys to listen to, and also encourage you guys to visit InsideNebraska.com, where we have plenty of written coverage of the Huskers as well. Steve will be there in East Lansing. Have you covered there with boots on the ground in person. And again, he's a must follow, Steve_Marik, Marik, on Twitter. So he'll be doing cut ups of the game on Saturday. So for Steve Marik and Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.